A lot of us out there like to pick on the state of California as a place where, well, you see what they're doing over there. Don't do it that way. Now, while I appreciate the laboratories of democracies and states being examples of good things to do and bad things to do, I don't exactly like living in the place that is an example of the bad thing to do all the time. That being said, myself and many others here in California, including pretty much the entire team for Turning Point tonight, has decided, we're not leaving and you might as well stay and fight because, well, even if you hate the current policies, California is a place worth fighting for. And speaking of somebody who is fighting for the state of California as a whole, there's a guy in Riverside County, the sheriff over there named Chad Bianco, who has, well, been a bright light in the state of California. And I won't even necessarily say for hardcore MAGA, but really just common sense, which is really what California conservatism has become. I know there's a joke out there. When I tour the country and go speak at places, I say, well, I'm a Republican in California. And they say, okay, so a Democrat. And I laugh at the joke. But at the same time, at this point in time, California has become a place where the only thing you need to do to be considered a conservative is be normal. That being said, let's welcome in our guest for today, Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco, who also has thrown his hat into the ring to be the governor of California. Chad, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing good, Sheriff. Thank you so much for being here. Here's, off the top of the bat, my wife and I are big fans. And when you announced your candidacy for governor, my wife said, awesome. And then almost immediately said, aw, he seems like such a nice guy. And now his life is going to get really, really difficult. So to start things off, why did you decide to run? And with that, I kind of am asking, what the hell are you thinking? And two, what do those conversations look like with you and your family kind of, taking the step to hopefully save a state that I think you believe is worth saving?
Yeah, well, first, I love you and your wife for caring about me and thinking about me in that way. And it truly is something that we had to think about. And this decision for me to run, while it was internal and there are many things that went into it, the final decision had to be with my wife and my family because we've been through these politics before. We know what running for a countywide election is, and we know what running against the Democrat Party is going to be. So we are very fortunate, or I'm very fortunate, that there is absolutely nothing negative in my background that can come out that's going to embarrass me or embarrass my kids or my family. And we know that everything that will be said is basically a lie and a political ploy to somehow discredit me or increase their own chances, whatever the case may be. But it certainly is real, and we know that it's coming. But in the end, it was kind of for really what everybody believes. And your intro was absolutely perfect. California at one point was the beacon for the country of success. And if you wanted to make it, you had to go to California, whether it was in business or school or Hollywood. And we've come to a point now where you can't even come to Los Angeles for Hollywood because there's no more Hollywood jobs. They've outsourced those other places because California government has shunned them away. And our businesses are closing, our schools are horrible. And there are so many things that are driving people away from California. We've become the laughing stock, and sometimes we are afraid to say we're from California. But in the end, you said it. You don't want to leave, and we love it here. There's just something about California that is appealing, whether it's the weather or the environment or that hope of making it in the American dream, the California dream. And it's been taken from us to the point where my kids can't be here. They don't want to be here. They're looking at other states so they can raise their kids in a better school, or the cost of living isn't so high, or taxes aren't so high. And the unfortunate part about that for me is if my kids leave, that means my wife leaves because the grandkids left. I can't allow that. I can't have that. And I certainly don't want to be without my wife, so I'm going to be forced to go with them. And our only option is we have to save our state. And we have to bring all of those people that have gone, we have to bring them back. The reality of the people that left California, they didn't want to leave. No one
Mhm.
wants to leave California. You're forced out of California. And the people that leave, when they get somewhere else, they realize, man, I want to go back to California, but now I can't afford it. And
Yeah.
there's no way for me to leave. The weather here stinks, or there's something else that they don't like about the places that they arrived that California didn't have. But we're now at the point where I'm going to do absolutely everything in my power to save this state, not only for my kids, but for your kids and for our grandkids to come, because it is a beautiful state. It is the place to be, and we just need to get that back to where California government is working for Californians rather than a political agenda or special interests.
Yeah, no, obviously running in California as a conservative or even to the right of, I don't know, Fidel Castro is seen as difficult. But in California, I think from a broad strokes, I don't know, example, Californians have good intentions en masse. Now, obviously, there's different drivers and different variables, but as a whole, I think and I believe that Californians want what's best for everyone. Now, the way they've gone about it hasn't made a whole lot of positive difference. So, with that being said, with kind of the unified nature of Californians wanting what is best for California and what hasn't worked in the past, how do you kind of carry that message of look, we're all on the same team. It's just that we've tried things one way, and now it's time to try things a different way with the same goal in mind for prosperity for all Californians.
Yeah, I'm approaching this race and this election a little bit different than what historically anyone has in the past. I'm not approaching this, and I'm not going to run this campaign for Republicans. I'm not going to run it for Democrats. I can't change the fact that I'm a conservative, God fearing Republican. But I'm not going to, that's not who I'm appealing to. And I'm not going to appeal to just the Democrats or the independents. This is about California. This is about sanity. It's about common sense. It's about that 80 to 90% that we all agree on. That's what this is about. The fringe elements, the 10% that we don't agree on, that we argue and fight about, that's not what's killing California. And I believe that we've become in California, we've become apathetic voters. We haven't cared. We've just gone along with the program. You vote for a Democrat or Republican depending on what you identify as, and we've come to the realization that that's been hurting us. And we haven't been paying attention to the people that we've been electing and what their agenda was. And in the end, we're starting to realize, hey, wait a minute, I don't believe any of that. The small portion of legislators that are running this state and the leadership, the governor, the other top elected officials, that agenda, that is what is harming everyone, not just Republicans,
Yeah.
not just Democrats. It's Californians. So that's what we're going to approach this as a common sense answer to our issues. And so far, it's resonating well.
So to tug on that kind of common sense thing, I know people who are watching from around the country who may kind of write California off as, yeah, that's gone. It's been a long time since a Republican has been elected to California's statewide office. The last one outside of Arnold Schwarzenegger, if you don't count him, was in 2006. We won the insurance commissioner. Awesome. The California Assembly hasn't held a majority since 1996, and the California Senate has not held a majority since 1956, which is a long time. Now, I say all that to say this. All of the people around the country who, again, write California off, 55% of Californians, according to a Public Policy Institute of California survey in September of this last year, 2024, say that California is headed in the wrong direction. It's 55% of Californians. No party preference here. Is it time? Do you think that we are at the breaking point in California where, regardless if there's an R or a D or an I next to your name, you just have to change something? Are we finally at that breaking point? Is that why you're looking to push so hard?
It is, and I think it's the stars are aligning. Everything is, the planets have all aligned now for this to happen. And I mean, even in your question and some of the things that you said, we have to start being realistic and honest, all Californians, and that 55%, I believe they are. And I think it's even more than that, but it's hard to admit that you may have been wrong or that you may have contributed to
Totally.
something that is bad. But we have to start realizing that the entire country thinks California is going in the wrong direction, and we're almost the laughing stock of the country now. And the stark reality is Republicans played absolutely no part in that. We have had no say in California in our
Mm,
government for the last 15, 20 years, 30 years, if you really want to go backwards further. And so even Democrats are realizing the people that are controlling our state, the leaders that we have put in place are failing us, and we need a different direction. And that poll, I think, is going to be very indicative of my final result next November when we look at percentages of when they elect me as governor, what that percentage is going to be.
that's actually, yeah, it's a great point. Yeah, hey, just so you know, everybody who dislikes California, Republicans have had nothing to do with it for decades. So don't blame us.